Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at Baddeley and Hitch's working memory model, which you need to know for AQA A-level psychology in the subtopic of memory. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Baddeley and Hitch, 1974, proposed the working memory model, WMM, to account for some of the limitations of the multistore model. They suggested that short-term memory, STM, is an active process used when temporarily storing and manipulating information and consists of multiple stores, not just one unitary store like the MSM suggests. The model consists of 4 components, each of which is qualitatively different, especially in terms of coding and capacity. The central executive, CE, controls the WMM and coordinates the other slave systems after reviewing information from the sensory register. It is used when dealing with any task that makes cognitive demands and has a limited capacity and can process any modality of information, modality-free. It also monitors incoming data, making decisions as to what information is important and needs attention. It then allocates the information to one of the 3 slave systems: visuospatial sketchpad, phonological loop, episodic buffer. The phonological loop, PL, processes auditory, speech-based, information and preserves the order in which the information arrives. The coding is acoustic. It is divided into the phonological store, which holds words that are heard, and the articulatory control process, which allows for the maintenance and rehearsal of acoustic information, repeating sounds or words in a loop to keep them in the working memory while they are needed. The capacity is thought to be 2 seconds worth of what is said. Confusions often occur with similar sounding words as it is an acoustic store. The visuospatial sketchpad, VSS, processes visual information through the senses or visual long-term memory, patterns of recognition and spatial information consisting of the relationship between things and the perception of movement. It is divided into the visual cache, which stores visual material on color and form, and the inner scribe, which deals with spatial relationships, rehearsal and the transfer of information from the visual cache to the central executive. The capacity is limited and, according to Baddeley, 2003, is about 3 to 4 seconds. The episodic buffer was added to the working memory in 2000 as a temporary store for information. It is used to aid CE when it becomes overwhelmed, integrating the visual, spatial and verbal information processes by other stores and maintaining a sense of time sequencing, basically recording events, episodes that are happening. It can be seen as the storage component for the central executive. The capacity is limited of about 4 chunks, Baddeley 2012. The visuospatial sketchpad, phonological loop and episodic buffer then transfer the information to the long-term memory. The working memory model has several strengths and limitations. A strength of the working memory model is that it is supported by case study research. Challis and Warrington, 1970, carried out a case study of patient KF, who was injured in a motorcycle accident. Following his accident, KF could recall stored information from his long-term memory. However, KF had a severely impaired short-term memory, particularly for verbal, acoustic, information, when KF read digits himself, compared to visual information, when someone else read digits to KF, suggesting selective impairment and indicating that different types of information may be processed and stored differently within short-term memory. This is a strength because it suggests that the working memory model can account for variations in memory performance based on the type of information being processed. The selective impairment observed in KF indicates that short-term memory is not a single store but consists of different components that handle verbal and visual information differently. This supports the idea that memory is more complex than previously thought and that different modalities may operate independently within the short-term memory system. A strength of the working memory model is that there is support for the visual spatial sketchpad from dual task studies. Baddeley et al., 1975, found that participants had more difficulty being 2 visual tasks, tracking a light and describing the letter F, than doing a verbal and verbal task at the same time. The greater difficulty is because both visual tasks compete for the same limited resources. When doing a verbal task simultaneously, there is no competition. Baddeley and Hitch, 1976, found that when two tasks require the participants to use their phonological loop, their ability to perform the task is impaired. However, when one task requires that participant to simultaneously use their phonological loop, remembering a series of numbers, and the other requires their visuospatial sketchpad, copying a drawing, then that performance is not impaired. Therefore, dual task performance activity provides evidence for the existence of the visuospatial sketchpad. The MSM can't explain this. This is a strength because it suggests that the working memory model provides a more nuanced understanding of memory processes by demonstrating that different components, like the visuospatial sketchpad and phonological loop, can operate independently. This indicates that cognitive tasks can be managed more efficiently when they do not compete for the same resources, highlighting the model's ability to explain variations in cognitive performance that the multistore model cannot. A limitation of the working memory is that the theory suffers from experimental reductionism. The working memory model attempts to examine complex behavior by relying on isolated variables operationalized in laboratory experiments. Furthermore, the working memory model adopts a nomothetic approach since it attempts to generate universal laws regarding how short-term memory processes information, based on dual task studies conducted under laboratory conditions. Using an ideographic approach, such as was used by Oliver Sacks with Clive Waring, Sacks, 2007, and Brenda Milner with H.M., Milner, 1957, can shed light on how STM loss can vary between people. This is a limitation because it suggests that the working memory model may oversimplify the complexities of human memory by focusing on controlled, isolated variables rather than considering the individual differences and contextual factors that can influence memory performance. By relying heavily on laboratory studies, the working memory model may not fully capture the nuances of memory in real-world situations, making it less applicable to understanding how memory functions in everyday life. A limitation of working memory model is that the central executive, CE, is of a vague and untestable nature. The central executive is often described in broad terms, such as attention, without clear delineation of its specific components or mechanisms. This lack of specificity makes it challenging for researchers to design precise and targeted experiments that can accurately assess the functions of the central executive. Furthermore, there is case study research to suggest that it is not just a unitary store. Esslinger, 1985, conducted a case study on patient EVR, who had a cerebral tumor removed. While he performed well on reasoning tasks suggesting his central executive was functional, he struggled with poor decision-making skills suggesting some elements of his central executive was partly damaged. This is a limitation because it suggests that the central executive may not operate as a singular entity, but rather consists of multiple components that can function independently. This complexity makes it challenging to fully understand and assess the central executive's role within the working memory model, as evidenced by the case study of patient EVR, which indicates that different aspects of the central executive can be affected by neurological damage. A strength of the working memory model is that it can offer insights into processing deficits and provide explanations and treatments. By understanding how different components of working memory interact, researchers and educators can develop targeted interventions to support individuals with specific learning deficits. For example, by focusing on improving phonological loop function or enhancing central executive control, tailored interventions can be designed to address specific difficulties. This tailored approach based on the working memory model enables the creation of effective strategies to support individuals in overcoming their cognitive challenges and enhancing their overall cognitive abilities. This is a strength because it suggests that the working memory model can be practically applied to enhance educational practices and therapeutic interventions. By identifying specific deficits within the components of working memory, targeted strategies can be developed to support individuals, leading to improved cognitive functioning and better learning outcomes. A strength of the working memory model is that there is dual-task research to support the function of central executive. Clower and Zhao, 2004, aimed to investigate the central executive's role in working memory through a dual-task experiment. Participants had performed two simultaneous tasks, remembering a sequence of letters, phonological loop, and tracking a moving target on a screen, visuospatial sketchpad. The study found that when participants performed both tasks at the same time, their ability to recall the letters significantly decreased. This suggested that the central executive becomes overloaded when coordinating tasks that engage both the phonological loop and the visuospatial sketchpad, leading to reduced performance on the primary task. This is a strength because it suggests that the central executive plays a crucial role in managing cognitive resources and that its limitations can impact performance in tasks that require simultaneous processing. The dual-task research provides empirical evidence for the WMM, reinforcing the idea that working memory is not a single entity but consists of different components that interact in complex ways. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.